Easy, how are we?
Johnny, we're back. It's weird just being us for the intro. We've had so many people on and so many interviews recorded.
I'm so excited for our guests coming up throughout October and November. We've got a lot of booked. We think we recorded 3 or 4 episodes last week. So it's weird just us two talking for 10 minutes.
I know, yeah. And like, in fairness, we get a lot of guests and we build them up because we get bursts of like a couple of weeks, and then we've got like 10 people going, when's my episode coming? I feel bad. But
it'll be up. It'll be up.
It will be up. We have a lot in the tank, but of course, the beast that is Dublin takes all the conversation as it is getting very close.
I am getting anxious. I'm getting nervous, and I'm getting back to my old ways. And what I mean by that was
lifting weights.
I love it.
We've seen you, you big Egypt.
Before that, we did. I had a little violin out for myself last week. The podcast was like, "Oh, you're being a little bitch." I was like, go for a run. This is Sunday. We recorded that, and I was sick. I'm down with something. And then Niamh looked at me. She goes, don't you even think about going for a run? Now, it wasn't that much of a twist in the arm, but I was like, okay, Fritz.
Okay.
And then that was the end of my idea of going for a run that day. And I was doing other things around the house. But I went out Tuesday, and I had one of my, I'm just going to be tick about this and go for a run. A couple of laps, have the Lucozade, have the Perform gels and stuff outside the house and go for laps. And I got one in. And I start coughing and splurting and all that. I was like, no, stay strong. Go back out again. I went back out and I got halfway down the hill and I felt the calf go from a 1 out of 10 pain to a 2 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10. And I got 3 out of 10. And I could just hear myself talking in the intro about, so I kept running because and I got injured and I'm out of Dublin. So I said, no.
Don't know what happened, boo-boo.
I said, I'll stop. I'll walk back up. But I walked 10 minutes later. I was walking back up the hill. I'm like, I actually feel grand. I'm like, no, stop. Don't be an idiot. So I can't remember. It was after a Thursday session recordings, the Friday. Me and you had a bit of a talk afterwards because I was doing Trika that weekend. I'll talk about what Trika is in a second. And you were like, Sean, do me a favor. I was like, what? Don't be an idiot. Think about Dublin. Dublin's the main thing. It's the races. We're building the podcast. Everything to do. And not even the podcast, just for yourself. Like, Dublin's the A race. Don't be an idiot.
Be careful, Sean. You're making me sound like a nice, logical guy to everyone who stands up to you, when we're recording and I abuse you.
He immediately shook his head after that and abused me for the next 5 minutes. I had to end the call. But that was, he had a moment of weakness, guys. I'm telling you, a moment of weakness he had. So, for those who don't know, Trika, it's in the RDS. It's very similar to a High Rocks, but I don't want to say easier, but it's open to more levels. So, like, the aid stations are very similar. But you have like 800-meter runs, which in theory can be harder because you have to sprint them more than a kilometer because you feel like it's only 800. The same with the 500, but it's also, if you're not that confident in running, you jump in and do the 500. It was great because you can see other people that wouldn't do a High Rocks. They might think a High Rocks is too much, doing a 500 and the 8 exercises. So it's an Irish thing. It's the first time running over the weekend, the RDS. So it was a bit like, it's the first time. This might be all right. But it was really, really well run. So much, in fact, that like we were guests recently in the podcast talking about how they couldn't get a High Rocks ticket and their affiliate. But when you're affiliate of this one for the gym, because I know ABC Gym is, they would put you together with as many other ABC Gym members as they could. So we had waves where
you get to go it all together. Comfort for everyone. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So there was 8 lads all a similar level yesterday morning doing it, and it was like, right, they're in a race now, so they're all tops off, the ego to the roof. They're like, right, let's go for it and stuff like that.
I'd be paying the money to put them back on. I've seen your gym and your member. No, I'm only joking. That's terrible. They can abuse me later. I'm moving on.
When you get back to Ireland, you're in for a world of abuse for that one.
Burn me car out.
But they're doing class and stuff, which put the pressure on me. I was in the doubles. Good friend Amy, running with her, and I told her before, I was like, look, my calf could go, so I may have to pull back at some stage. And I felt like shit saying that, but at the same time, you're with a partner, you want to try and put your best foot forward and do what you can. So took off out of the gates half hour. There's a good few doubles in it, and we're around 2-3 laps in, and Amy's like, what do you think we're doing for pacing? And it's like that meme in The Hangover where you see Bradley Cooper go like the 5K pace for the marathon going, I think we fucked up, because I could see one of the coaches, Roisin, I could see the back of her head still after 3 laps. And I'm like, Amy, like, she's going to do really well. Like, long story short, she went on the podium. I'm like, if we're hanging with her this early, we are going out way too fast. But we got to hang as much as we can. got to the ski over and Matt kept going from there. Same with the farmer carries. I just took off the farmer carries like I had my Christmas shop in my hand. The only
The
complaint
Bailey's rattling.
there's actually a story I ended up putting up. I didn't even know, but she got me an effing. Actually, I can't say it. She called me a fucking wanker during it because I just took off.
You're dead right. She is a woman of good taste and observant.
But we got to the thrusters, and this is the only complaint I'll have about it, is that they have a screen for it. In theory, it sounds great. That checks your reps. So a big thing with high rocks is the wall balls. You're relying on human error and coaches where to do it. So this has an iPad, and you squat down, and the bottom half lights up green.
Like an AI check, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Arms go out straight, lock out, go green. So it's 60 reps in this thruster. So I bang out the first 10, no bother. Amy bangs out the next 10, but it doesn't count any of her reps. So it's still at 50, and she's like, something's not right. Wouldn't. I don't know if it's because of our different heights it wouldn't register, but
you're only as good as the tech. Unfortunately, it's great, but it's
So the singles and stuff, I'd say, works great. The doubles, we had an issue, and we know other people that had issue with it. But apart from that, it was like, okay, like she was.
Teething problems.
Exactly.
Teething problem.
Their first time doing it, and it's a great idea. Hopefully, it works out for them. The sleds, they were so smooth, the new turf and all, like, so that made a 150 kilo feel light enough. I mean, we just got through towards the rest of the course, but the elk half was starting to niggle, and I was like, Amy, I have to pull back. So I felt shit, but I was like, I have to pull back a small bit. I was like, I'll take over as much as I can, the sleds and stuff like that, but I can't go any faster. And I also knew the last one was burpees. And your advice was ringing in my head at this stage, because the calf was, it was a 1 or 2 out of 10 pain. It wasn't that bad, but I know if it pushed, I could easily turn to 4 or 5. I didn't want to drop out of the race, so I had to pull back 20, 30 seconds per kilometer pace. Long story, but we get to the burpees. The burpees is the last station. It's like, was it 80 meters burpees? So it's like 40 meters up, 40 meters back. You burpee, broad jump, keep going from there. And we get to the end, you turn a sprint finish. I got into the stage, I'd done everything sensible. But there was a couple just in front of me, and Amy knew she had to take over, because I'm like, I'm going to struggle here. My fitness isn't great. And with the broad jumps, I'm going to struggle with my calf. So she bombs it along for the first half. I'm like, brilliant. I take the first quarter, I take over a little bit, and I'm dropping down, stepping up, little jump, dropping down, stepping up, little jump. I'm being conservative with my energy. I get halfway, and the couple just take over a little bit. I'm like, fuck. As they're coming back down, I see the finish, and I just hear myself say to Amy, 5 reps is switch. So 5 reps, bang, she blasts them out. I just lost it. The head was gone. 5 reps as fast as I could. She does another 5 as fast as she could. We start passing them out. And then there's a video of me near the end, just blasting out 5. I was like, right, run, sprint, finish. So we got in front of the couple. As I was sprinting, I realized, oh, fuck my calf. I can't go any faster. So I slow down. Amy takes off. She finishes like 5-6 seconds before I get to finish. I'm like, it's a doubles. We're supposed to do this together. But she just, boom, gone. But our first one in the bag, got the badge and all the rest. But here is the kicker. Here is what more events should do. And I'm going to sound a little bit of an alcoholic here, but I don't care.
I know where this is going.
Pints and a bar in the venue. I have been, and I've complained this podcast about like having non-alcoholic. Man, having a pint of rock short there at the end after doing a race like that. And because the affiliates and all the rest, everyone was finishing just before and just after each other. So big group photo.
So the whole group goes to the pub together.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. And it's only...
Oh, my God.
And you're still in the same building. I thought it's a sprint. You have a pint together.
I'm organising a 5K time trial, and you go in your running club and you finish at a bar. This is going to be a game changer.
Absolutely. Oh man, that for me, that was the ice in the cake. On great day, have a pint afterwards, enjoy it. Now, I only had the one. We went off, got a bit of food, and made an evening of it, and then off I went from there because I had to run in the morning. But yeah, it was a really, really good event. They're going again the end of January, so anyone that's into like kind of like bit of gym work, a little bit of running, trying to go for a combination, I would definitely recommend it.
When's
even
it
if you're
on?
sure
January?
Doubles. So they do like a race series. So it's like 4 of them. We don't have to do the first one. You don't have to do all of them. You can just pick one and go for it. So like I think it's 31st of January and 1st of February is the next one. So if it lines up with me with other events and all the rest, I'd love doing their doubles one. And just to go event, tick the box, get a bit, keeps you going in the gym and stuff and all the rest, and go from there. But I thought I really enjoyed it now. I did.
You're fucking hunting me for a doubles. I can tell by the way you looked at me when you said that.
Someday.
Someday. I'm going to be here doing burpees.
I was on the way home though after that then when the lads goes, I can only go for a run at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, shit. I have to go for it.
The reality.
The reality kicked in very fast. I have a marathon. The calf's not best, but I needed to get some running. So thankfully he did the full trike himself. He was one of the 8s. Johnny Burke that did all the lads top off, sprinting and all the rest. So he was struggling to get out of the car this morning at 6 o'clock. And I was like, right, he's going to want to take it slow as well. So we just cruise for a 20K because need the miles and the legs come with Dublin now. I just want to get around the course and I'll be happy out. I will stick with wave 1 to finish sooner. I know a few people listening won't be happy with that because one of the questions we had in the podcast coming up was how come I'm stuck at wave 2 and I did a sub 3-hour marathon. I should be in wave 1 and I think that is one of the many changes they were making with the announcement last week of the full lottery, and I've given it some thought, and selfishly it's annoying a little bit, but at the same time
want to get finished at 12.
I will say, like I'm happy on wave 1. I'll stick with it. It's got me annoying when wave 2 with a 3:30 and all the rest start passing me out at that stage near the end.
It's not nice.
It's a bit of it. It's not nice, but look, I haven't put in the work, any which reason, excuses, all the rest. And that's why I do think they need to change a little bit of lottery. Like we've talked before in the podcast with the 22,500 people, 18,000 only turning up, and like over 70% of people that do the marathon do automatically take the re-entry, which doesn't allow for that. I think that lottery means it's a smaller pool of 30% of people trying to get their first one. And I know people down in ABC Gym that are doing their first this year that have put in the work. There's a girl down there, Michelle. She's just got like phenomenal in on it. Got her VO2 max done early in the year, stuck to a structure, built up to her first ever half marathon, their first 32K or first 35K, tapering down right. And there's a few others in the gym doing that as well. And they deserve the opportunity of doing it. Like I just
because of that advice. It wasn't this podcast.
No,
anyway.
it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It was maybe some of our guests saw, but it definitely wasn't listening to me on that one. But
making me feel shit. I'm gonna go get a pizza and a cake.
and then I was thinking my end as well. Like for example, when I did my calf back in August, let's say if it was a really bad tear and I couldn't do Dublin, I wouldn't have transferred my ticket. Now, I do think transfer window needs to be longer, but I wouldn't have transferred it because then if I transferred, I wouldn't get the re-entry for next year. So now I'm hoarding a ticket for next year. So I do think something has to be done. If this works out and they turn it from like 75, 80% turnout to 90, 95 next year, it worked and there's no complaints. Now, having said all that, those that were there, what I've heard in the leaner years, because I think when me and you started doing in 2017, it got a little bit popular. It was getting popular like 2-3 years later. It was the sellouts and stuff. Those that have 12, 13, 15, 20 marathons in a row, I would like to see a bit more lenience.
Definitely a bit of a loyalty program there.
Yeah, a bit of a loyalty program
10
there.
plus years, you're like...
Which puts me off by one. But I do agree. Yeah. Those that did it back in the early 2010s and even further than that, I think a loyalty program or something like that would be all right from them. But when you see New York has 98, 99% turnout and all these others have, and we're down to 70, 75, and it's the same. I don't know for sure if it's that in terms of those that hoard the tickets, but
I'm selfishly delighted because I gave up mine when I moved away. So now I'm back, baby. You watch out for this lottery.
Yeah. Now they do have you done the marathon previously? So there might be some sort of extra allocation towards that. But look,
then I just have to remember every name I ran under. Yes.
Yeah.
I have.
Do you see they doubled down on that as well this time? Not running under other people's name. Which, do you know what? With a marathon, 5Ks, 10Ks, and all the rest, maybe I'll get a bit of flack for that.
Don't buy it.
Deal.
You don't have a good transfer system. I don't care. I'm running under someone else's name.
Yeah, but
I'm calling it. If you had a good transfer system, I'd say this is terrible. You should have transferred your ticket, but they don't. So be better. Don't blame the people for trying to participate. Be better. If you're going to change the lottery system, change that as well. Let's have a big change.
Good point.
There are people who are getting to 3 weeks out. Like I know, like we're talking about technology. We're talking about changing details. If you can do a Ryanair flight an hour the day before for £100. Now I'm not saying charges £100 either, but if it's a case of swapping details onto a ticket because you only get allocated your number when you show up to the expo. So,
Yeah.
you know, what's the big deal? So yeah, be better. You know, and then maybe you'll get 99% turnout. You know, if you're looking for the
You have
percentages,
a full total. If you're this far into it, then yeah, that transfer window being that good bit longer will be.
Yeah, because
they need
people
to make these changes.
People, like, I could think of 10 people right now who are training in the hopes to pick up a ticket.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, you know, if you're looking for percentages, we talk about percentages of getting better, and you want more people participating, you want more ladies participating, then be better with the transfers as well. Up to a month before, people pick up injuries, people have losses in their family, people, you know, if you're looking for it, you can hand over a ticket easy, then let's go for 99% people and facilitate it.
Yeah, to your point, I know someone now that can't do the marathon this year, that if I hadn't got a ticket, I could, in theory. I'm not. I'm running under my own. I'm running under my own name before anyone asks. But I know that I could take someone else's ticket right now and go, "Hey, marathon ticket," and get around the course and enjoy it.
Call a spade. Like for me, if I ended up moving home early and like Dublin ticket was on offer, I'd find it very hard to say no.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If I came home next week, I was like, would you do it? Would you get around? I was like, do you know what? I would. Who am I running as? Mary. Right. Come on, Mary.
Yeah. And not to give the marathon disrespect, but once you've done a few of them, you can. Now, you're not getting anywhere near PBs.
No, you're not a PB, but you know how to manage your day.
Manage your day without struggling too much and feel right and get through. You're not going to be bragging about your time compared to what you've done before, but
it's for the love of what Dublin gives you. It's not a disrespect to Dublin. It's to be part of something special. That's what it is. It doesn't matter your time. But yeah, well, look, you're going to set me off here now, Sean. You better change subject.
I guess we'll move on to the guest this week of the podcast.
I've done everything else.
I will say before we do this part of the intro a little bit different, because what we did for this one, we asked a lot of people different questions and stuff to put on the podcast. So before we hit the record button, this one, I have a screen beside me and I put everyone's questions and stuff up there. And then I put in, we had a post as well on all the accolades our next two guests have in the podcast. I put that up. And Eric will tell you, I was a bag of shit in this episode because I was trying to read the screen. I was trying to read the screen, looking for questions and stuff. And I was trying to, even the intro, I was like, I normally write down the intros, full disclosure, and I'll have a look. But I was like, sure, I have their graphic from Murray in the post. We hit the record button 3 or 4 times, and I was like, this is no good. We're going straight into it. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, that's an awful way to intro. So I apologize for our two guests, Jamie and Anne. So right now, I'm going to tell you some of the accolades they've done. So Jamie has ran over 50 marathons, including Chicago and Boston. He talks about that in the podcast today. This will be his 8th time pacing 320 in Dublin, having paced races around the country, different marathons in Dingle and Limerick and everything else. He's done a Dunedin 50K 4 times, and he's broke sub 3 twice before in Dublin. Anne has ran over 200 marathons. This will be her 9th time pace in Dublin. She's won Connemara twice. That's the Connemara 100 miles, that is. She's finished Spartathlon. I said that right.
Good man, Sean.
Yeah, I said that right. Didn't finish the intro, but I said that right. She's done that twice. And next week, she is representing Ireland at 24-hour World Championships in France. So that is why the advice for our next two guests is absolutely golden. A lot of great tips come up to Dublin. I know it's Dublin eccentric, but like we said there, it's all about Dublin Marathon these next 2 weeks leading up towards it. It is by far the biggest race of the year.
Yeah, and it's a great episode. It's one that we can really look forward to. It's fantastic to see and have confidence in these people. It's a really good episode. We've been talking way too long, so I think it's time to get into this one.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Let's go! Our next two guests on the Any Given Runday podcast. Well, we had a post on them during the week with all their accolades, and I've tried to read this out 3-4 times, and I cannot get through it. Including Anne Jennings doing a Spartathlon, I can't say. We're just rolling with it now, guys. You have way too many accolades, and we got a lot of questions coming in on this. But before we get to the accolades, because I've done a terrible job in the intro, we need to hear a lot more about you guys and why you guys are the go-to guys for Dublin Marathon this year. Also, how are you getting on?
All good.
Great.
What a cop-out.
Can't wait to run my first marathon.
Jamie's running the first one. Guys, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Obviously, Sean can't read out your accolades, but they are huge.
Too many.
Sometimes pacing marathons up to 8 times. Some are the 3:15, some 3:20. You've raced yourselves quite a lot. We put up a post on it during the week, as Sean mentioned, and it's an impressive list. So it should give people a lot of confidence in getting them around Dublin, or at least holding on to those balloons as they get around. But it didn't start as pacing for you guys. And I'm going to start with you. How did you get into running, and what brought you on your running journey?
I suppose I got into running probably in 2012. I would have played a lot of kind of GA and rugby up to that point. And unfortunately, I had to give up kind of contact sport. I had to have surgery and I needed to find something that wasn't as impactful. So I decided I'd try out running, since I hated it when I was playing football. I hated laps of the pitch, and now I seem to pay to do that. So something but I ran my first race in 2012 in the Great Irish Run, the 10K, and I decided then I'd just be amazing and try to run my first marathon 6 months later. So that's where my journey started.
Out of the frying pan and into the fryer. How was that
Definitely
first marathon?
It was everything you could possibly imagine. I was amazing for about 13 miles, and then I didn't know what the muscles were in my body. They were so sore. I didn't have the training put into it, and I winged it, and was so happy to see that finish line, and said, I'll come back next year to do this without the 99% pain I felt. So that's where it kind of went from there.
And that was the start of what is a fantastic running journey for yourself. Have you been doing Dublin every year since, or have you done many others around the world?
Know a runner who's always chasing the next finish line? Or maybe you are that runner.
Meet the UltraPure Sports Recovery Kit. Everything you need for faster, better recovery after those long runs.
Inside, you'll find the UltraPure Epsom Salts Gel, Arnica Cream, Wintergreen Heat Rub, soothing bath salts, and a free gift. All designed with your recovery in mind.
Perfect post-race, post-training, or after a long weekend run. This set is the ultimate treat for hard-working muscles.
Beautifully packaged and ready to gift for your running buddy or you.
Made in County Mayo by an award-winning Irish family business, UltraPure means quality you can feel and trust.
Find the UltraPure Sports Recovery Kit in select pharmacies and health stores nationwide, or shop now at ultrapurelabs.ie.
By listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. But for now, it's time to get back to the episode.
I think I've done Dublin every year since. I think I may have missed one. I haven't done any of the majors of that. I've tended to kind of stay, I suppose, in Ireland and do a lot of the smaller. I like the smaller events too. So that's kind of where I've been. I've done a few abroad, but nothing huge in terms of London or New York or that. Yeah, staying local.
Staying local. And Jamie, what about yourself? We have you decided to go from a 10K to just taking on a marathon, or have you always been part of running, or what is it?
No, look, I did my first Dublin Marathon, which was my first marathon back in 2008. In the run-up to that, for want of a better pun or lesser pun, earlier on, maybe that year, maybe the couple of years coming up to that, I was a bit overweight, not like noticeably obese or anything like that, but felt that for me, I wasn't going the right direction, probably physically and mentally as a result. So again, not overtly kind of big or anything like that, but more kind of, not sleeping right, not the right diet. Just needed to change something.
Lifestyle,
and
yeah.
Exactly. So 4 of us signed up and we did the actual Cork City Marathon as a relay team in June that year. And then myself and a friend of mine were chatting over the course of the summer and said we'd sign up for Dublin. That's back in the day when you could just sign up almost till a couple of weeks coming up to it. So that doing that relay marathon and then doing the marathon itself was a game changer for me. And then really from there, it was a case of I've got to this point I'd lost a good bit of weight, probably too much initially, to be honest with you, but lost a good bit of weight, was feeling a lot better about myself, and I didn't want to lose that level then, so kept signing up for other things afterwards.
It's a good journey to be on when you go from, everyone forgets the beginner. We don't, because similar to Anne, myself and Sean thought we could do anything. Marathon, no problem. And we learned the hard way. And it was around that mile 13 we realized how far a marathon actually is. It's twice that. It was a difficult one for us. When you progressed on then, both of you, through different races, and Sean will probably touch on some of those races that you did, what experience, or how long did it take to gain some of those? How many mistakes were we making over the years, and were we surrounding ourselves with the right people, or just giving it a go for a while and then eventually found your way into the right groups of people to show you the way? Anne, we'll start with you.
I suppose we all kind of make mistakes and learn from mistakes. I still think all these runs later, you're still learning, and you're still possibly making mistakes. So yeah, I think I've been fortunate enough. I've always kind of had a good group to run with. We've all made the mistake where you think, yeah, I'll sign up for all these races, and then you end up doing too much, and you either pick up a niggle or you get a bit burnt out. There's all of that to contend with, but in general, I suppose I've been lucky. I think for anybody else, I think Jamie kind of would be in the same circle where we have a great group kind of around us that you can train with, you can kind of lean on for questions and answers or advice. So in that regard, I suppose I've been lucky enough.
Yeah, similarly for me, I think there's lots of areas that probably I could have done better along the way, maybe. I don't know if I'd ever say that any race or marathon I did was a mistake. I always feel that I've achieved something in doing it. Maybe there's times where I felt I could have pushed a little bit harder, or the head gave up before the body would. There isn't, and you probably learn more from the ones that didn't go so well. Like there was one in Chicago in 2011, which ended up in a hospital. Well, the race went on, but I didn't. I ended in the hospital. But again, a race that everything goes well, you might not think too much back on it, so actually recently, maybe it's my elder years now, I start to write down a few notes after each race just to remember kind of what was the gel strategy. Well, even again, you're juggling a family and stuff like that, you're kind of going, what were the logistics of getting to that race? What time did I have to get up?
What's the name of my
like
kids? What?
yeah, the ones I know about. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Jamie, just in case we don't go back to it, Chicago, what happened?
Yeah, so back in 2011, I was living in Toronto in Canada at the time, so trained during the summer over there, and there was an opportunity to do the Chicago Marathon, one of the majors. I had done Boston earlier that year. I think it was maybe my 10th or 11th marathon, so, reasonably well experienced at this stage. Was going for sub 3 for the first time. Went down to Chicago. Felt great, everything brilliant. Temperature was a little bit high, as in the air temperature, mid to late 20s. But still, focused on the hydration, focused on the electrolytes, the gels, everything. Everything was going fine. Stuck with the Pacers, always good advice. Went along, and then ticking off the 5K marks or whatever it was. And then I wake up on a bed with ice and everything on it, and a drip in Lady of Mercy Hospital or whatever it's called in Chicago, wondering what happened. And me asking the nurse, the first thing when I came round was, did I finish? And she was, no, you didn't. The annoying part was I had got to 40K because I, ultimately got the result. I got to 40K on target. It was all going well. I have no recollection of what happened. Did end up in an ambulance to the hospital, severe dehydration. Something just didn't work out that day, that I was either maybe predisposed to flu or cold or something like that, or the combination of that, the temperature and the exertion, and didn't work out. Ended up in the hospital, thankfully lived to tell the tale. Haven't got back to do the 2K yet in Chicago, but one of those experiences that immediately after I felt really bad about and was like not too sure about this marathon running business, but then I said, go back on the horse. I had signed up for the Toronto Marathon the week after, so towed the line the following Sunday and kept going. That was it.
The following week, you must have thought long and hard about it, like to get right back up and
Yeah, it
going
must have
again.
been a good hour, Jamie.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was like, but strangely enough, my wife was very enthusiastic about me going doing it. Like, I don't know if it was the fact that we just put together a good life insurance policy, or
Yeah, sounds good.
or whether she didn't want to listen
with less water.
Or whether she didn't want to listen to me going on throughout the long, cold Canadian winter about not finishing a marathon and not being able to do another one till March. So maybe one or both of those.
And did you manage to go sub 3 the week after?
I know. just about got sub 4 the week
Jamie.
after. Yeah.
We're just trying to build a picture of who you are as a man, Jamie.
Yeah. Soft is probably right, yeah.
And when you take to the start line and you are pushing for a few of the PBs you've set, you've ran some good races. Have you ever found yourself in those last 10K of I'm in a dark place here in the Hurt Locker? How do you find your way through the difficult miles of the marathon?
Need fuel that keeps up with your pace? Meet Perform's Carb Gel with 30 grams of fast-acting carbs, powered by 3 fuel sources for sustained energy when it matters the most. Packed with cluster dextrin for smooth digestion and a steady release. No spikes, no crashes.
All that in a compact 40 milliliter sachet, tested under Informed Sport, so you know it's clean and competition ready. Whether you're chasing the podium or just in an XPR, Perform Carb Gel gets you there faster, longer, stronger. If you're looking to stock up, you can use the code AGR to get 20% off your order.
By listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this Irish podcast. Time to get back to the episode.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been in that place. I think probably some of us have been in that place probably after a couple of miles too. It depends on
I get out of bed.
It depends how hard you're going, and it depends on the race and all. I suppose from a marathon point of view, yeah, look, I think so much of it has to do with your head. Like, the head will give up way before your body will give up. But obviously, don't end up like Jamie and end up in in the hospital. Like I've had one of those experiences myself too after kind of a long ultra. But from a marathon point of view, I think you just need to turn off the head, and you need to trust what you've done, and you kind of have to turn off the demons. I generally just try and distract myself with anything. So it'd be, even if you're running beside somebody, have a chat or talk about anything, and just put your head down and just get it done. Because, as I said, your head will do its best. Your head, as we all know, will tell you anything you want to hear to stop or slow down, or, take in the scenery or whatever it is. So I think you just got, if you can turn off your head, I think you've got a good chance of getting through that last 10K, and finally getting to that finish line and hopefully getting the PB you're looking for. But not every day is going to be a PB day, so you got to kind of reset. If it's not going right for you, you just got to reset and say, okay, let me do the best effort I can do for this day,
And we got one of the questions on that. When it gets that last 10, 12K, you're coming up your 10K, cross ski and everything else, and when people are starting to struggle, do you find they start to lean on you, and you feel like the onus, any sort of like talking to others, trying to talk people through these parts and stuff like that? Or is it, this is the pace, keep up, keep going? How do you approach that part?
Well, I think throughout, I suppose for the first half of the marathon, you have a lot of nervous energy. So people are kind of giddy, and they're chatting, and they're bubbly, and they're high-fiving, and they're, and they're waving to the crowd, and they're taking in all the energy of the course and the crowd, the experience. And that's brilliant. But you get to that point, you get to the halfway point. I often say to people, like, from maybe 14 miles to 16 miles, psychologically, that is a hard part of the course, because you've gone over halfway. If you've had any kind of niggle, or you've been feeling, maybe you've had a cold or whatever, that's kind of where your head will start playing, which is saying, I'm only halfway, I have this to do again, quite a part of the course. And And you find people start to get a little bit quieter. And Dublin Marathon is amazing because you have everybody out. You have people out in their pajamas offering you tea. It's just, the crack is amazing. But people do get quiet and people get tired. And you'll find with all the gels on the ground or going through the water stations and that, you know, you got to kind of keep people thinking and, you know, saying, you know, be careful that you don't, because as you get tired and your legs get tired, you're likely to trip or slip. So it's just kind of keeping people aware of their surroundings. And then you probably come into people that may have been walking from the start, or people who have just kind of decided to walk for a while, and people have to start weaving. So there's a lot of energy lost, I feel, in that kind of last section of the marathon. And there is a nice flat downhill as such to the finish of Dublin, but people do get quiet. And that's where you start talking about absolutely anything. And, you know, it could be anything. It would me, it could be asking people, you know, what they're, you know, why they're doing it. And yeah. I should play one of your podcasts actually for everybody while they're running around. But, you know, you get amazing stories. And I suppose you just try to talk to people, you know, you try to get them to visualize, you know, listen, you've gone out your own front door in the lashings of rain. You know, you only have 7K or whatever it might be. You're 7K from your front door. And when you come in from the front door, you probably have to put the dinner on or something. Here you're getting like thousands of people watching you, a medal and the glory of it. So you kind of just talk to people and keep them going.
Jamie, what Anne has just described there, when you talked about working with pacers and stuff, was it people like you two are describing now and guiding them that made you want to be a pacer? And what made you want to, apart from free tickets, want to pace marathon?
Yeah, look, it is actually, I think it's in my nature. This sounds a bit twee, but it is in my nature to kind of want to help and see people succeed. It's something from a community perspective, from a home perspective, and even from a work perspective that I'm really passionate about. So this kind of thing really appealed to me, right? And then when I was racing myself or running myself, I saw the pacers there and realized what a good kind of service they were doing, the expertise, the encouragement, of what a difference they can make. What Anne was describing there, like it's, you know, it can really be the difference between, you know, succeeding and failing. And each runner has trained, right? There's no doubt about it. Each runner is doing this themselves. They have earned their finish time. They've earned their medal, everything. And it's that heart and head thing, isn't it? Like, you know, sometimes what we can do as a pacer is help to get into that head a little bit, you know, by bringing humor, by bringing encouragement, by bringing it through. And I find that's to be able to do that, and, you know, hopefully that's what people think. That's really cool to go for. Like, that's almost as good as getting a PB, if not better in many ways. So that drives me to keep doing it. It drove me to do it at the start, and it's why I'm really looking forward to doing it again in a couple of weeks' time.
And how nervous were you on the first pacing gig you did? Or were you confident you'd get everyone around? Or were you kind of like, did you have that classic runner imposter syndrome, like, I'm not a runner and now I'm a pacer?
I think you naturally would feel that, and I think that's a good kind of nervous energy to have. You know, you don't want to mess it up, and you want to make sure that you're doing it right. You know, and it is a big thing. Like once you put that balloon on, you know, you're like, you know, you're like a magnet to people, and you're there. You know, you're there to calm them down, to answer their questions. It's a responsibility, and I suppose it's an honor to do it as well. It's lovely to give back. But yeah, it's the first one. Yeah, I was nervous. I won't lie, but I think we probably all were. I think you have a certain amount of nerves every time you do it, because, you know, you're going out there as everybody else and trained and confident, but it could be not your day either, you know.
Jamie, have you ever taken a scissors to your balloon to hide? Have you ever had a bad day as a pacer?
Well, I heard one of your previous guests had to chew through his pacing balloon ribbon.
We don't name names. It sounds like Gary Reinhardt.
Yeah. I've never had to do that. No. A funny incident was, though, I was ready to start probably about maybe 25 minutes before the start. I was in the start area. Next thing, the balloon starts you're deteriorating, shriveling back down into nothing. And it's all very well, like if your balloon bursts, which it does out on the course sometimes, you know, it hits off a tree or a spike or something somewhere, but you generally have a pace group with you at that stage and they know who you are, right? At the start, like, I mean, if you don't have a balloon, you're just like anyone there, right? Just see this thing shriveling back down. What am I going to do? Like, so I had to run back to the start, where of course I get abuse from Anto, the lead pace coordinator there. He said, "What happened to you? But what have you done with the balloon? What happened there?" Like, you know, real encouragement. So no spare balloons, but we came up with a solution, which was to cut the wave 3 balloon, which was, you know, showing runners where to go at the start of the race. So, you know, wave 3, go this way. So there's a balloon with a ribbon on that. So we managed to cut that, attach that to me. So I joined the other 2 320 pacers with the wave 3 balloon, right? So you can imagine the cheers we're going through. Go 320, go wave 3. Yeah, go on, go wave 3. But thankfully never had to.
The 20 written in marker.
Yeah. Never voluntarily had to leave a pacing gig early. Probably happened this time now that I say that.
Very well. Look, let's hope we don't put the mockers on it. But look, it's great to know the experience that people, when they get to the start line, people are looking at their first, maybe their second marathon, and they're really looking to hone in on pacers and what they're looking to do. You guys have a wealth of experience and knowledge, and it's calming when we see you guys having fun on the start line and being really relaxed, and it makes everyone around you feel relaxed. So we're going to bring everyone on a bit of a journey. What can people expect the morning of? And like, even the corrals can be quite daunting, and finding your pacers. So what can people expect, Anne, on the morning of the marathon, and what's best? What's the best strategy for just finding new guys, positioning themselves in the waves and getting involved early?
Well, don't rely on Jamie's balloon. Well, I think Dublin Marathon have done a great job in terms of coordinating, you know, the waves and the meeting points and dropping off your bag and all. I think for anybody, just give yourselves plenty of time. You know, get in with plenty of time. You know, make sure to have something in your hand to eat, because you'd be waiting around a while, depending on what wave you're in. And also bring something with you, like stay warm. People forget they'll be standing there for quite a while before they start, and you do lose a lot of energy standing around in the cold. It could be raining, like we've had every weather, but like, just keep warm. So have like a throwaway hat, a throwaway top, and it all goes to charity if you leave them at the start line. But it's just really important to just keep, not to get cold, because you're just wasting that energy that you need for running. But like, everybody should know the wave they need to go to. Like, you won't get to move up a wave. You can certainly move down a wave. But look, just try and stay calm and relaxed. Find your way into your wave in plenty of time. As I said, it's all well marked. Bag drop, all well organized. Like, they do a great job, all the volunteers. So I just say, just give yourself time is the most important thing.
Jamie, when your balloon stays inflated and people manage to find you, and they're going to have the dilemma: do I stand in front of Jamie? Do I stand behind him? Do I try and chase him? Do I let Jamie chase me? What is the best method? There is no one way to do it. Obviously, it's very individual. But how can people position themselves at the start line to be part of that energy that Anne described earlier, the nervous energy, good, bad, or indifferent? It's good to be a part of that group at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the key thing to remember, and at the start and maybe through water stations and busy areas, I'd often say it to the pace group, just keep the balloon in sight, right? Because you don't have to be literally on top of the pacer. Like, that does happen. And we turn, to
someone
get some
holding
water
onto your pocket.
Yeah, it's almost like that, like they'd be stuck to the side of you. And that, I totally understand it, because you're there, you've full faith in the pacer, and you want to go exactly where they're going and take the route as exactly the way they want to go. So I'd always say, first of all, keep the balloon in sight. There's going to be times maybe where you might fall back a little bit, or you could end up going ahead. I'll come back to that in a second. But it's more about, do run your own race within that. Keep the pacer in sight. Keep them in earshot. There's 3 to 4 pacers depending on what pace group you're going at. So there's plenty of us around to kind of follow, right? In terms of being in front or staying behind, that's kind of your call. I've done both. It depends. Are you motivated by potentially being caught and trying to stay ahead and you feel good, you know? But then what happens if the pace group passes you by at 20 miles? How do you feel? Are you completely gutted by that, right? So you got to think about that. Or do you want to sit in behind the pacer and follow it, hold that energy back, and just, you know, if you're feeling good, then later on, the last couple of miles or the last mile, and you have a bit more in the tank, go for it. You know, so it's really a personal decision there. I've done both, and it probably depends on really ultimately how you've trained and what your mindset is and what you feel better doing. Bit of a fudge of an answer, but it probably is a bit personal.
And when we look at the groups at the start of the race, we're paired in tens in Dublin. Which balloon are you pacing this year, Anne?
I'll be 4 hours.
4 hours. And a 4 hour is what for a lot of people, well, every time has. But as we move back to field, the 4 hour sub 4 for me and Sean anyway has always been a good goal, and anything under 4 is a good day. Anything over 4, we probably didn't do it. And that's in our goals of what we want for it. We'd love to do under 3, but we're realists. And when you look at your group, will be quite a substantially large group at the start. How busy is it around you when you're making your way through? They're probably the narrower of the streets until you make your way towards the Phoenix Park. How tight is it, and what can people expect who may have been training on their own and now all of a sudden they're running with 2,000 people in a wave?
Yeah, that can be slightly overwhelming for people. This year they've introduced, so they're going to have 2 4-hour pace groups this year. And there's 2 3:30s, so that helps because they look at the stats of the bigger groups. But sub 4 is always a big group, and that kind of sub 4 monkey to get off people's backs is always a big one. In sub 4, we have 4 pacers generally in the one group, so we normally have 3 pacers in, we'll say, the likes of Jamie's group and that, just because the group is so big. So it's a case that everybody of the 4 pacers can kind of manage the group, so people don't feel like they're way behind when they're not, just because of the sheer size of my group. So we do say to people around us, we are going to run this, it's going to be even splits and even effort throughout, but I think just don't get caught up in that first couple of miles where it does get tight and everybody's Garmin is on, and some people think they're running a 8-minute kilometre and some people think they're running a 4-minute kilometre. So we kind of just explain to people, listen, let us do the work, and just your focus is just stay relaxed, stay around us. You don't have to be on top of your pace or anything else. Just have your own space, because you often see people will trip up and, it's a disaster in that sense. And then you'll see a lot of people trying to go up on footpaths and, just wasting energy, just trying to make up a few seconds. So we always say to people, look, just stick with us. And it does even out. Like when you start getting out, past 5K, you're well evened out into the park. And there are some tight patches after that, but it generally spreads out. But we always have a big group with us personally.
And when you say even splits there, do you mean per kilometre you guys go by, or do you base it on every 4 or 5K? And then when you are basing it, do you go off time or by Garmin? Because we've had people on the podcast talk before about like when they finish a marathon, Strava says 42.6, not 42.2. And that's doesn't seem like a lot, but like 400 meters, especially you guys trying to get in 4 hour, that could be the difference between 4 hour and 4 hour 1, which you don't want. So how do you guys work that?
We run the course basically. So we will run even split, even effort. So we'll say for like personally, I would always try and run in around like a 3:59:20, just to give a little bit of a cushion, not too much. But every kilometre, like it wouldn't be case. So we'll say approximately 5:40 a kilometre. You wouldn't be running like a 5:20 and a 6. You perhaps might reach, we'll say, Heartbreak Hill, and you might just go up that slightly gently, but you make it up on the way down. The other side, but you'd only be talking about seconds in the difference. It's a case of not burning people out, thinking you have to be aggressively going up this incline. So it's about even efforts all the way around. That is the that is the way we try and do it. But the course is marked in mile markers, so we will always go off that. We always know where our last mile point is from the finish line, so we will always work off that. And for I suppose anybody who's ran Dublin, like the mile markers are generally accurate. There may be a few that are a slight bit off because they may have to work off the next
where the
pole
lamppost is. Yeah.
or so there's always going to be that. But if you're working with a pacer, like that is our job, and that's what we do, and we'll always bring it in within 20-40 seconds roughly of the cutoff time.
We must have got 20 different variations of that question. I'm just looking it up there trying to find a different way of asking that, but a lot of it was even splits and effort and stuff like that. Out of curiosity, Anne, if you're running your marathon, let's say, so people listening to this mightn't, for some silly reason, run with pacers and want to do their own thing, and for whatever reason, would you do a negative split for a marathon? Or if you were running by pacers, there was no pacing, it was just you out there, and this is not a pacing thing. This is just how you feel, because according to you've ran like 200 marathons. You've won Connemara twice. You've done Spartathlon, which is the first time I pronounced that word correctly. I couldn't pronounce correctly right there. I ruined that sentence. But you've done a lot of running, so I'm just curious. Do you run even splits on like, I understand it from a pacing point of view, but I'm just curious for yourself, would you do even splits on a marathon?
I personally, I think, I suppose it sounds strange, but I would use a lot of marathons as training runs because of the type of running I do. But if I was running, I would generally, I tend to run negative splits without, I suppose, putting too much emphasis on it. It's just the way I seem to do it. And I suppose for anybody, put that back into, we'll say, Dublin scenario. For anybody running Dublin, don't forget the first kind of 6 miles roughly of Dublin is slightly uphill. So I think for anybody running Dublin or thinking of running Dublin, I think it probably would work as a negative split race, because you've got that sneaky incline on the first 6 miles. So if you can just behave yourself on that, you're home and dry as such, because the last 10K is a lovely lead in home. So, but that's Dublin. But yeah, personally, I would prefer to run negative splits, but that's how I run. Everybody is different, Yeah,
no, just curious. I know for myself, I don't have the patience to do a negative split. I always go out too hard in the first half, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna hang on for dear life here for the next part. So if you're someone like me doing that, I'd say the easiest thing to do is literally just hang with a pacer, because you don't have to think now. They're going that pace all the way through, and you're not thinking with paces, or like you said, like even when you're talking there about jumping over, curbs and stuff to pass people out to make sure you're staying at whatever pace you're staying at. I'm just getting all these flashbacks of me doing that. And then I'm like, I wonder why I was really struggling the last 10K. And I go back to, I got 3 seconds by passing that guy out by jumping up the curb and the other side around the tree and coming right back in, and just being like, it has to stay 5 minutes.
Yeah. And people, I don't think people mean it, but you can literally see it happen around you. People put themselves in crazy positions and you can see them nearly stressing, looking at their watch over a few seconds. So like, if you lose 10, 15, 20 seconds, whatever, in the first mile, you have 20, 25 miles to make that up, So it's, you'll see that it's all the nervous energy. You see it at the Dublin Expo as well. People come in and people come up to the pacer stand, and, you could have somebody saying, can I have a 3-hour pace band and a 4-hour pace band? And, they just, people get nervous and they don't know what they're meant to be doing. So, it's hard.
We've both done that.
We both. I think I had 6 colours. It was like a rainbow on my wrist.
They don't work to get you into the Oasis mosh pit or whatever.
Jamie, with those bands, would it be better for people to just turn on their watch and turn it the other way, and then just have a look at the band every time they hit a mile marker, and then have a look at just time, elapsed time, as opposed to waiting for the beep every kilometre? Because the pacing bands are fantastic, especially when you get into the latter part of the race and you're like, what should I be at? And then the maths starts to happen. Now, the maths I actually like, because a kilometre go by the time I calculate how fast I have to run to make it in by 2 seconds, and I'll probably still get the maths wrong. But is there little tricks to do with them bands? Because people are going to meet you at the expo, they're going to talk about it, and what other tips do you have about the maths of working it out on your own if they're not sticking with you?
Yeah, well, look, the maths is great if you can get it right. You can also go spectacularly wrong, and that can happen the later you go on into the marathon, the more tired you are. I definitely would recommend pace bands. We as pacers use them because, again, as we talked about here, the Garmin, for any number of reasons, any number of things can happen with a Garmin in terms of, you could run, you're not running the race line, your Garmin could stop getting reception, someone could knock off it, it could stop or whatever. So we always use the pace bands to check off our mile markers rather than, that we're hitting them at certain times as well. So I definitely would recommend them. It does take an element of that maths out. You can, if you're running with a pacer or not running with a pacer, you could write in stuff onto the pace bands, like where you want to take your gels or where the water stations are, so you can have little, again, taking more of the mental stuff out of it, right? So that's really handy. So there'll be pace bands at the expo the days before, and that's also a chance to meet the pacers as well and have a chat with them. It's always great to kind of strike up a conversation with the pacers. They'll get to know you then, and that makes it a bit easier. If they know your name or whatever during the marathon, you're having a bit of a tough time later on, they'll kind of go, I met this person yesterday, I met them earlier on, or struck up a conversation with them or whatever. I can slag them about something here, kind of get them going a little bit, like Anne was saying earlier, the kind of mind tricks, you know what I mean? A bit of crack around that. So, I could have deviated a bit from the pace bands there, but that's kind of a little bit of a trick around that. Otherwise, I think the Garmin, your watch is there as a guide, really. I just think, focus on checking off those times as you go through it each mile. And again, the pacers are there as well to take some of that kind of thinking out of it for you.
And when you get later on in the race, you talked about that lull period, and that's where you hear people going quiet and stuff. A lot of times when people go quiet, they start to not take on board water, they start to not take on nutrition, they get a little bit tired, and lazy, I suppose, is one way of saying it, but it's not laziness. You just kind of sacrifice it because you become tired. Your brain can't force yourself to eat. So how can people kind of prepare for that element when they don't even want to take on water, or they say I'm fine, but even though from your experience in a couple of kilometers is when they're really going to need it?
Yeah, well, I suppose there's a couple of things that I suppose I personally try to do. Like I've when anybody's around me, I kind of try and look at their bib and see their name and know their name, because I think if you say, for example, come on, Sean, let's keep going here, or whatever, you're doing great, or you whatever it is, it's a personal thing. I think it gives people a boost. But also on that, I suppose I tend to remind people, take on your fuel and try and take it on as you would, when you're doing your training runs of a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, whatever it is. And you do get to a stage then people might, they might be perhaps too hot or sweating too much. Their stomach feels ill. So I always try and tend to I'll always bring a bag of jellies with me just to give to people. And they always, I could sell them for 20 euros.
Geez, Anne, we'll all be expecting you that now.
I suppose, people can get fatigued, and for some people it will be their longest run, because a lot of people may have gone up to, we'll say, 22 miles or whatever. So they're into the unknown. And I think sometimes that plays in people's heads as well. But I would say, I'd always say to people, always just bring another gel or whatever, for whatever you take, you might drop one. So just always have more, better be looking at it than for it, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And try and at least sip little bits of water. Like, there's no point in getting to the stage of you're absolutely dehydrated and gulping down a load of water and then getting a stitch. Or so, carry your bottle of water, have an extra gel. And it may be a case that, you take a piece of Lucozade Sport from the, Dublin Marathon would have some gels and Lucozade Sport. You may not be able to take it on, but as long as people are getting small sips of something to keep them going, I mean, you'll get there. You have enough in your body to get to the finish line.
And not to mention that Dublin is probably one of the largest free food tours you can be part of, exactly. Because there's oranges, jellies.
McDonald's, you could get any. I got offered Guinness one year. It was very tempting, but I couldn't really stop.
You were photographed elbowing 10 people out of the way to get there.
Yeah, but there's so much around. It's great that there's jelly babies probably on every corner. It's brilliant. But I suppose that the one bit of boring advice to give to people is like, just don't take on something that you've never tried before, because that could be the difference between your race and you having the death march for the last 6 miles or something,
Jamie, have you been known to kick a few people over for jelly babies on a corner, or do you carry all your own gear? What way do you manage your nutrition now that we know you have to bring extra jelly? So anyway, what are you doing, the 320 again this year, Jamie?
320, yeah. So look, it's too
Haribo
fast to carry anything.
Pockets.
It's too fast
Haribo
to carry
in the pockets. Get out of that. There's Haribo.
I don't think anybody would want Haribos as being in my pockets when I'm running a marathon, to be honest with you.
Well, Brian Conroy, the 3-hour pacer, is obsessed with Haribos, so he'd take them off you.
He is a man
have to catch him first, no, look, I'd normally stick with the gels. So I've been using Science and Sport, is it the kind of isotonic gels? Been using those for years. They've worked well for me. I've started taking the Morton ones this year. Just change it up, try something different. So I carry, like Anne would say, 1 or 2 extra ones there, because just don't know what's going to drop. I would be an advocate of the salt tablets as well. So I'd stick some of those on with masking tape or whatever on. This sounds very rudimentary here, but I'd stick them on to the gels so that every time I take out a gel, I can just take it off nice and easy with the salt tablet, because I would sweat a lot. And so I'd take that, and I'd take water at any opportunity as well. I think people might think, it's Dublin. Yeah, it's October. Don't need that much water, don't need that much salt or whatever. But you'd be surprised, that could get you a cramp later on. I think as well, obviously the opposite, like, don't overdo it. And certainly if you're well hydrated the day before, I think from the time you get up to the time you start to race, no more than a regular bottle of water really is. You shouldn't be having any more than that. You shouldn't need it, if you've had enough the day before, and then it's just topping it up, as Anne said, through it. But I'd carry the gels then in a belt or whatever with me, and worst case scenario, you might lose 1 or 2, or then as Anne said, there are generally a smorgasbord of different items available on the route, both official and unofficial, to help you on your way should you need something else. Additionally, you might decide, if you have friends or whatever along the course, they might have a bottle or something with a gel strapped to it or something that they could have it held out for you at some point. So that kind of thing works as well.
I think you were going to touch on this earlier, Jamie, about almost losing the balloon, because you said something about you should have more than 1 bottle, and I've made a lot of mistakes, but I haven't said in this podcast that lately I'd have 2-3 bottles. I don't know why. I have a lot more liquid support, and my earlier marathons I maybe go straight through, but the later ones, because I'm probably having too much water, the toilet breaks are coming there, twice in Barcelona and whatever. How many times is not important, but if I'm with a pacer and stuff, a pacing group, and that happens, jumping in, trying to catch up that pacing group, does that happen a lot with you guys? You're like, okay, I'll be seeing 20 seconds, they're trying to rush in, back out again, and sprinting and losing energy, trying to catch up to you. Do you see that a lot going on the course?
You can do. Again, I think for the pace group there, it's probably, I think Anne touched on it earlier as well, it's if you do need to go to the toilet or whatever, and you're 10 miles in, you've got 16 miles to catch up with us. Don't be trying to get it all back in a minute, And it, every preparation for every marathon is different, and some of them you get it right with, and over time, hopefully, you get that kind of the hydration, the toilet stops, the nutrition right. But it's perfectly normal that you might need to go, in a marathon. These things happen. It'll take whatever, a couple of minutes, and you're actually better off, I think, if you've any doubt at all, go early, because if you have to stop at 20 miles, it's a bit harder to crank up the gear and get going again. And that's when you do have less time to catch up with the pacer. So if you've any doubt, don't be holding on to it. Just go for it. You'll feel better, and you'll catch that pacer within a couple of miles, and you'll be back to normal. You'll be glad you did and just got it done with, And, I just wouldn't trust any of the port to lose later on the race either. So
In case you see Gary in them. No, but it's,
Don't trust him anywhere.
Poor Gary.
when you
Poor Gary.
Gary's gonna hate me after this. When you come through kind of Heartbreak Hill and your pacing groups, as big as they start, they do dwindle, and you're left with those who are the walking dead at some that are just holding on and just all they can see is a balloon. They can't see anything else. And when you start to come down that hill towards UCD, how does the mindset shift, and what can people look forward to if they can hold on to that point? And you alluded to the last 10K is moderately fair for the finish of a marathon. What can people expect from you guys at that stage as they move to the latter stage of the race, and the, I suppose, the carrot to hang on to that point that an easier, well, it's never easy to finish marathon, but a nicer time, I think, from the body is coming.
Yeah, well, I think what you get at that stage as well is you've gotten a group where you have a good lot have been running with you since the beginning, or may have fell back or come forward, but people have gotten to know each other as they're running as well. And you're kind of like, yeah, here we go. Let's, it's like, let's get the band back together and let's all finish this together type of thing. And people end up, as I said, just kind of remind them of why they're doing it. And you start thinking, okay, who's at the finish line for you? And you start getting them to visualize, how they're going to celebrate that night, or are they going to be like, how much of a PB of a kilometre will they run after the marathon to get to the pub, to get the pint or whatever it is. So, I suppose you just try and keep them people distracted, but keep them, they will get tired, or people might want to walk, and you say, come on, let's just do another 500 meters together, keep with us. And you start kind of introducing them to other people to say, if you run here beside X, keep each other going and all the rest. And like you'll find probably when you get in around the RDS and that, people, we generally try to send people on their way at that stage that are still with us, saying, listen, you have this, you're looking really comfortable, just go for it. Like we have to run this pace in now, so we can't pick it up, but you can. So like by the time we get to finish, you'd have a few that may stay with you because they're like, we've been with you since the beginning, we want to finish with you.
And you're like, away, you're ruining me photo, get up there.
But you'll always get people who fall behind, or you'll get people who go ahead or whatever. But I think once you start getting them into, listen, you often say with kind of like 5 or 6K out, it's like, you've a park run to run, and you don't even have to run it fast, just bring it home now,
Jamie, that last couple of kilometers is a very emotional one for a lot of people. You've covered a lot of marathons. You know what it's like from your first one. Everyone remembers that feeling, or second, or even maybe even you still get that feeling. But to watch other people go through that, and for you to be part of that journey for them, because everyone's either running from something or for something. What is it like for you, even after all these years of pacing, to watch people in that last 5K and push them on for PBs, and we probably pick up on some of the stories of why people are running along the way, because I've no doubt everyone talks to you all the way around.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's probably even back to that piece. It's like you've a park run to go, or you've got your 5K or your 2 miles or your 1 mile or whatever to go, and that's kind of where we're kind of earning our keep as pacers. Really pushing people, kind of getting that last bit out of them. I think for me, then it's almost then when you do meet them afterwards and they kind of turn around to you and they kind of say, and some of them you may not have spoken to at all, and they'll kind of go, look, I was right behind you, I didn't say anything, I stuck with you, or I went ahead, or did that, and thanks very much. And you might only find that out at the end, but you kind of, it's then when there's people that are lagging a bit, and you speak with them, or you encourage them, and they you can see them kind of even kind of saying things like, look, let's get it, let's make sure it's 3:19. Like, you've only got 10 minutes running here left. Like, it's minutes here. It's not miles, it's not kilometers, it's minutes, or it's 5 minutes. Don't let it slip here. It's don't run for an extra half a minute and make it 3:20 instead of 3:19. It's, it's some simple things like that. When you're sitting in the pub or whatever it is, Burger King or wherever you are in an hour's time, you're kind of going, if I had just put in that little bit more, and it's in the head, if I just put in that little bit more, you don't want that regret. You want to say, I did put in that little bit more. And when we're able to kind of, you can almost see it in people sometimes. You can see them flagging and you'll have a chat with them and you'll kind of point out how close the finish is, or you'll G up the crowd around them and you'll almost say to the paceys sometimes, like, you don't worry about this. I'll get the crowd going. The crowd will go and people get it. You can actually almost see them spur on a little bit. Like you see them moving and find that extra gear in the last bit. That's brilliant. Like, and you really see them, they find that sprint towards the end. They'll get in, they get to 3:19 or the 3:59. Hopefully not 3:59 in my group, but the 3:59 in Anne's group. And you'll see that in. And yeah, like you do, you have lots of people, different stories. Like, your 3:20 isn't a particularly kind of round number, like say a sub 3 or a 4 hours, but it's often people going for age group qualifiers for like Boston or, it's London or whatever it is they need to do, or age group categories in Dublin or whatever. And you get some of these stories that go through, and then you see all the people with the different t-shirts that are running for different people as well. And everyone has a great story, whether they're running for themselves, because you learn a lot about yourself in that time, whether you're running for yourself or if you're running for someone else, or if you're running for a cause or whatever. It's just absolutely fabulous. And Dublin really celebrates that. And when you're in those last couple of miles, especially you get to the RDS, it's the closest thing probably, I'm guessing, to being on stage in front of thousands of people for the runner and for the pacer.
That build up towards the end now, the last couple of years, the big screen there as well. I think come up at the 25-mile marker, you're just like, okay, you just feel the crowds and stuff building through. Is it the same feeling for you, Jamie, crossing that finish line, or is there a bit of a relief that you got in the 3:19 and you got people through the 3:19? Is it a different feeling to doing running yourself?
It's different. I wouldn't call it any. I wouldn't say it's any better or worse. Actually, it's a completely different achievement, I think, because if you're running for yourself, depends. If it's a PB, maybe you've been looking at for years, or a target to be looking at for years. Yeah, maybe brilliant. But if you're getting that group of people over the line, like, that's a shared achievement, and that's excellent. Like, that's something that's really kind of, you can turn around to everyone. You're all celebrating. It's brilliant. Like, so as long as that feeling as long as you keep, I think all pacers have that feeling. Like, they kind of go, this is fantastic. This is what I'm here for. Like, this is fantastic. Like, it's excellent. Plus, it means I don't have to ruin my whole summer training really hard as well. So it's great.
And the same can't be said for you, though, because next week, are you doing the 24-hour championships in France?
Yeah.
That's
right.
A nice paper,
so you're
Anne. Well done.
Yeah. Not my lollipops.
Is there actually a bit of nervousness after that coming into the marathon from there? Or like, how are you set for that? The 24-hour?
I think like anything else that you train for, you wish you had more time, even though you've done the training. But no, look, it's a huge honor to be able to represent your country at that level. And yeah, just fingers crossed. Now we all have a good race.
And then sure,
it sounds matter when you talk about that kind of distance.
What's 4 hours after 24? And sure.
Yeah, what difference?
It's just a cool down, really.
That's it. Yeah, it's just a warm up and cool down. It's all good.
But we wish you the very best in that. And then we've no doubt that everyone who's listening has gained something, or has gained at least the confidence in the pacers that are going to be leading them around. And have you between both of you, you probably have some final words of wisdom to those who are going to lace up for the 26th of October and take on the marathon and try and hold on to you guys? What are any of your last tips or tricks for people for the day of the marathon?
I'd say, I suppose, from my point of view, don't be a fool and go into the expo and spend the whole day walking around, looking at every stall and buying everything that you'd never used in your life before and been wrecked. It would be the first thing. And the second thing is, it's an amazing experience. Dublin, the crowds, everything, the atmosphere. You'd fuel on the atmosphere of Dublin alone. So find a pace group. They're all magical. Sit into one of them. Leave off the headphones. You can have the headphones on a quiet country road or your own training run or whatever, and just soak up the atmosphere. And if you're doing the first marathon, you'll never have your first marathon again. So just enjoy every step of it. Don't like zone in on having to run a certain time because someone else said you should run this time or whatever it might be. Just enjoy the experience. It's an amazing day, an amazing lead up. So that would be my small piece of advice.
Yeah, and probably from my perspective, I think if you can do the expo, get your race number on the Friday, if that's possible, do. And keep your Saturday free. It's not possible for everyone, but it's a nice maybe way to do it. Found that kind of helps. I think as well, the day before, depending on what you're doing, it's always worth having. It depends on how experienced you are as a runner or marathon runner, whatever. You have your food and your water close by for the day. You don't want to be getting hungry or anything on the day before.
Don't be thinking about it too much. Yeah.
Exactly. Have your kind of your food there with your sandwiches or whatever, and your water and all that kind of stuff. Keep it to hand. Plan everything out. Have it all set out. Plenty of time. Course itself, as Anne said, I think the highest point is at Castleknock there. So don't gun it out to Castleknock. Like I think that's 6-7 miles. That's going to hurt you later on if you do go too fast. So, really, really hold back as much as you can, at least to that point, if not beyond it. And then, other than that, I think as we've kind of said here, a lot of the pieces, it's in your head. You've got the training done, hopefully, so the physical training is there. A lot of it now is your belief or your lack of belief, or how you bring that out in race day. And you probably have that extra bit in your head, and that'll take you there. If you go through a low spot, just get those feet moving. You'll come out of it again. You'll be fine, and you'll get there. Enjoy the day. Dublin is, I think, one of the finest marathons out there. It's a great race, great day, and great atmosphere. And best of luck to everyone.
Just once, I want someone to give advice, say, don't do this, and me to go, I haven't done that. I'm glad I haven't done that. But today is not one of those days. No. Best of luck to everyone listening to this podcast doing the Dublin Marathon in a couple of weeks' time. And that is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Myself, Jamie, and Eric. Take care.